Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot.
Yeah, but we all think you're crazy.
You don't fight this. No way.
The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. It is the 25th. Yes, it's the 25th. It's a Thursday. Hey, we got jobless claims today. That should be interesting. But most of the action overnight was pretty flat, although it does look like the market's starting to get going here. Let's see here. Come in, charts. So, yeah, where's my volume profile? Here we are. So you can see yesterday, the low of the day was just at that 200-day moving average on the S&P 500. I don't know if it really, I wouldn't trade off of that, but, it's just an interesting point to know where we're at, okay? Coming in here, you can see pretty strong down day yesterday. I was actually surprised. I think after we stopped streaming, they went from like where we were at, like at 50 all the way down to 20. It was really fast. That was a big bar. Anyways, and then since then in the overnight session, we've just kind of been bouncing around. So here we are moving down a little bit, but it's not significant yet. And of course, we've got that big old 3,000 just below us. So that's kind of where we're at in the equities. We're going to have like news today, jobless claims. What else do we got? Durable goods, core PCE prices, corporate profits quarter over quarter, GDP growth rate. Yeah, there's a lot of economic numbers here to digest. We got here in the treasuries have finally broken higher. So they've been a little bit constrained and now they're going higher. And we're getting into the end of the month too. This is another thing that we should keep in mind here is we got tomorrow, Friday, and then Monday and Tuesday. So all of these indexes, funds are going to be rebalancing a little bit. And since they've made so many profits in stocks, they're probably going to sell a lot of stocks and buy bonds. And that might be one reason why we're seeing the bonds move up. Oil took a hit yesterday as well, and is kind of tracking the S&P 500 again, which that correlation can make me nervous a little bit. But that's when things were really bad, was when oil was just totally collapsing, right? And gold had a good move yesterday as well, but then fell apart. So I continue to see this thing. If you're taking it from a longer term perspective, well, man, I don't know. That's gold over the past, 3 months or whatever. It's just kind of all over the place. So I think on the longer time frame, gold seems to be doing okay, but in terms of like a safe haven, doesn't seem to be acting normal. Let's say, should we say normal? It's just, if you were a money manager and that was your flight to safety trade, that would be a little disappointed in the performance of it. Okay. Although, again, over the longer run, it has been up. So, Ian Shepherdson says, I'm nervous about the jobless claims numbers in a few minutes. Consensus is a big drop to 1,320K from 1,320K from 1,500K. But claims in Arizona jumped by more than 30%. So he thinks that we're going to get a much higher jobless claims number than the market is predicting. Let me just come in here. I want to pull up Forex Factory. We got about 3 minutes here. Ishmay alum. Hey, how are you? I haven't seen you in a few. It's been a week or two, hasn't it? Welcome back. Oh, this is a good one. The marketeer pointing out that when you look at the VIX futures versus the November VIX futures, that they all seem to suggest that there's going to be a lot of volatility around the election, but now they're starting to suggest that that volatility is going to persist beyond election day. So, mm, yeah, we got 5 data points. Scott Adams says, I've decided to reclaim some of the free speech I have been losing lately. Here's my free speech opinion for today. White privilege is a racist term. In my opinion, anyone who uses it is either a racist, an idiot, or an asshole. Wow. Rich privilege is a thing. Oh, okay. That's his opinion. Okay. What are they doing here? Their equity indexes channel. Okay, so I don't know if I'm gonna just like trade off of this unless the jobless claims number comes out to be like if that jobless claims number comes out and it's like 16, huh? No, 1,600,000, 1,700,000. Then maybe I click into the bonds and buy the bonds, and I think that that's the way that I want to do it. In fact, no, I'm not going to trade. I'm not trading today. I'm not trading all this week. I forgot. I maybe I put a limit, a stop buy here at 139.01. Okay, here comes the numbers. It is slightly higher than expected at 1,480,000. Durable goods orders month over month, 15.8 versus an expected 10.9. Durable good orders X defense is 15.5. Continuing jobless claims, 19,522,000 versus an expected 19,968,000. So about 400 less than expected. So even though the initial jobless claims is a little bit more than expected, the continuing jobless claims is less than expected, and that is good. Durable goods orders X transportation 4.0 versus an expected 2.5, so that's really good. Goods trades balance negative 74.34 versus an expected negative 69.68 billion. So the trade balance more negative than expected. Average weekly earnings 9.1% versus a previous reading of 3.7. Okay, so the E-mini is reading that as bad. Let's see here. Final GDP I haven't gotten yet. Have I gotten it? No. There's still a couple of these numbers I haven't gotten, like the corporate profits and stuff. PCE price is 1.3% versus an estimated 1.2. Okay, so a little bit of inflation, but not much. That's good. I'm still looking. I got final GDP quarter over quarter. And final GDP. Okay, final GDP quarter over quarter is negative 0.5 versus the forecast of negative 5. So that's in line. Overall, I don't see anything huge. Okay, so we're going to be watching our Twitter here now, see what people are kind of finding in the reports. Probably we want to be going through them. I want to look at the unemployment claims here. Let's see here. Where's the weekly jobless claims? Weekly claims report. Here it is. Ding, 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 ding. A decrease of 60,000 from the previous week's revised level. The previous week's level was revised up by 32,000 from 1,508,000 to 1,540,000. The 4-week moving average was 1,620,000, a decrease of 160,750 from the previous week's revised average. The previous week's average was revised up by 8,000. The advanced seasonally adjusted insured employment rate was 13.4% for the week ending June 13th. Okay, so there was some revisions. They're not, I mean, given the size that we're talking about, 1 million, 10,000s, tens of thousands is not a huge deal. There were 15,000 former federal civilian employees claiming unemployment benefits. The highest unemployment rates in the week ending June 6 were Nevada at 22.6, Puerto Rico 20.6, Hawaii 18.3, New York 17.8, California 17.3, Michigan 16.9, Louisiana 16.2, Massachusetts 16.2, the Virgin Islands 16.2, and Connecticut 15.8. Oh, what do you know? All Democrat areas. Insured employments, but the largest increases might be in other areas. Yeah, Oklahoma 7,000, Texas 5,047, New Jersey 3,000, New York 1,351, Louisiana. Okay, we're getting a little bit of volatility here. Largest decreases were in Florida, negative 24,000. Hey, okay, Maryland negative 18, Massachusetts negative 14, California negative 14, and Michigan negative 6. So Florida we should be concerned about, because Florida is a place that has basically been recovering. Zero Hedge tweets America's jobless claims data refused to confirm V-shaped recovery narrative, but the E-mini is buying it up here, actually quite strongly out of nowhere. And the treasuries came down. But I don't really see our currencies moving. Okay.
Uzi Knesset says we try in a higher but extra unemployment goodies keeping people out of work here in FL tongue out.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like that people are coming off the rolls in some cases. But it sounds like Florida is one of the worst hit from this new wave, you know? Although I'm not hearing them say things like we're going to reach hospital capacity. They're saying that in Houston they're going to run out of beds today. Mohammed El Rain, mixed weekly jobless claims are relative to expectations. Weekly claims came in at 1.5 million, worse than the consensus expectation of 1.3 million, and continuing claims amounted to 19.5, better than the 20 million expected. Yeah. Labor market has become a very important area for detailed analysis. One of the immediate questions.
Uzi Knesset says the average age of a COVID patient here plummeted from high 50s to low 30s.
Oh, really? One of the immediate questions, and it's too early for this report to answer it, is whether the main driver of job losses will migrate up from small, medium-sized companies to large ones. Mohammed El Rain is pointing something
Uzi
important out
Knesset
here.
says, yeah, no, because 3 weeks ago they all started protesting.
Oh, I bet. Oh, yeah, that's got to be it. It's something that I find really curious is that we're starting to see increases in cases. So one of the headlines that I saw that I thought was really funny was that they were saying, oh, in Oklahoma, in Tulsa, the number of coronavirus cases are increasing. And guess who just had a rally here last week? And I'm like, are you sure that it's not because, like, how can that be like a day later? It doesn't show up a day later. This is sort of a thing that, like, we're finding takes a lot longer to notice in the data than we expected. So Black Lives Matters, it's been going on for 4 weeks, and what do you know? We're seeing a spike in cases. 100% from the protesting. But most of
Uzi
those young
Knesset
people will
says
be
the
fine.
media will do everything possible to keep blame off their useful idiots.
Yeah, but mostly those young people will be fine though. It's fine as long as they don't give it to the old folks' homes. That's where everybody's dying. But like I said, in Houston, they're saying that they're out of beds. So on that one, I think if you live in Texas, you should be upset because the whole point of shutting down was to be prepared. The whole point of shutting down was to be prepared, and you get even a slight rise in cases and you're out of beds. What were you doing? What have you guys been doing these past 3 months? You're not ready. You should be ready. You should be able to handle this. I'm flabbergasted about Texas. I guess they did not take it seriously. I don't know. That one bothers me greatly.
Uzi Knesset says, like I said, bro, COVID isn't the problem. Our miserably pathetic healthcare system is.
Yeah, that might be it. So I don't know what caused that strong move up, but like several minutes after the news, I don't see.
Uzi Knesset says
Oh, it
20
must have
million
been
people
the
in a state with
GDP.
65,000 hospital beds is just retarded.
It must have been, or maybe the price index. No, that was in line with expectations too. So I'm not quite sure what that was. Inventory data is undoubtedly lost on the shuffle today, but the big surprise draw in retail inventory speaks to business caution. Okay. So he's basically saying that gas stations are not taking on as much oil because they're afraid that they won't be able to sell it. Okay, so that was a strong move, but they all just kind of retraced it. So what was I going to say? Yeah, I don't know. Like, so the thing is that when I was reading it yesterday, and like the feeling that I was starting to get from people, and I don't know if this was really a very accurate depiction of the way that things are going right now, but it was basically like we're gonna have a second wave and it's gonna be really bad, and that basically everywhere is going to be like it was in New York, which is I guess a theme that I think what is the word, like attractive to me, like I think that that's what will happen. I think that a lot of states closed too early, and so they didn't actually flatten the curve. You know what I mean? Like if you got it like this, where's my
Uzi Knesset says they say down here in FL, 13,500 people hospitalized with COVID since March. It's misleading the way it's presented. They make it seem like there's 13,500 people in hospitals with
Yeah.
COVID now.
Okay. Yeah. So if you're running along like this, okay, here's the normal curve. Let's draw them like, so here's the normal curve. Right? Hospitalization. Bad. Okay. So this is what we want. We're coming up, and then we flatten the curve. Hospitalizations. Right? That's
Uzi
what we
Knesset
want.
says average recovery time for mild cases 2 weeks, severe 3 to 6. Reality is, most hospitalized people since March aren't in hospitals anymore in Florida.
That's probably true. Well, this is what I think we got. See, there wasn't any cases anyways, so you're isolating. You're just giving yourself more time, but now you're coming up into here. If you don't do anything to flatten the curve again, then you're just going to get this. See? Because they shut down too early. That's what I think is happening in some of these states. Texas. Probably Texas is a good example. They shut down. They shut down right here. They shut down right here. And so the only state that actually flattened the curve was New York. New York did this. And New York was claiming that they was going to be like this, and it wasn't. Okay. New York flattened the curve. Nobody else did. They shut down too early. The whole thing is stupid. Well, it's not. It's just like, I don't understand, with all of the data and everybody looking at it and everything, that we could make so many big mistakes with the data for them to realize that, hey, flattening the curve that early, it won't impact things when if you open everything back up again and then there's nothing to stop the rate of transmission later. So we got duped. Well, did we get duped? I don't know. They made a mistake. So now you're going to get hosed twice, right? You shut down once, and then Texas it looks like, may have to shut down again. Ugh. If Texas shuts down, that's gonna I think the market
says that's why they wanted us to stay closed down until we had a vaccine.
Well, that's why they wanted to crush the curve, right? So that's where this is where it's kind of like, I feel like that some of what we were told.
Remember, they wanted lockdowns for nearly 2 years.
Yeah, some of what we were told was disingenuous, for sure. It's like, because crushing the curve, not realistic. Not realistic. But then now we're finding out that in some places we never flattened the curve because we shut down when we didn't have any cases. And then when we did start having cases, we're completely open again. So to flatten the curve, we have to shut down again. Morons. We said this. I'm sure that we talked about this sort of a thing, didn't we? Because I remember reading I specifically remember reading an article that suggested that some states may have to adjust their measures over and over again. That they'll open things back up and then they'll have a spike in cases, and then they'll find out that the spike in cases is too much, and so they're going to have to. Hey, how's it going? You're a little late today, buddy. Anyways, and that they'll have to reimpose lockdowns over and over again, 4 or 5 times before it's gone through enough people to have herd immunity. But then there's that other study that kind of suggests that people don't have the antibodies after 3 months or something, which is that's really scary, because now we're saying that it's just going to come through over and over again. If that's really the case, then you really just shouldn't shut down. The people that are going to die from it, just let them die now, man. That's I know that sounds like such an awful thing to say, but if that is really the reality, that is the only reasonable thing to do, because those people are going to die.
E-Trader says finally we are not in lockdown today as the deadline for us.
Is it really? So here in Utah, the epidemiologist is saying that if we don't do something now, we're not going to be able to control it. But they all set the date to change it until after the election, which I think is so funny. You know what? Something weird going on in politics here in Utah. Everybody cares about the primaries so much.
E-Trader says no, I'm from Morocco. Grin.
Oh, you're from Morocco.
Uzi Knesset says we let people die from everything else. Let people die from COVID. That's the only viable option without plunging the economy into hell, people into poverty, and robbing them of all purpose in life.
Yeah, Uzi. Well, I was reading an article the other day, and they were saying that you have to put a price on life, for insurance and stuff like that. They put a price on the lives of people. And the price that they were putting on a person's life was $10 million. So if you do $10 million and you say that you save $1 million, that's 10 trillion. That's 10 trillion. That's 50% of GDP. So are we willing to risk? That's what they're saying, is that the trade-off is save 10 million people or lose 50% of GDP. I don't know if that number comes out right. Maybe they're overvaluing the human life a little bit, but maybe it's not 10 million. Maybe it's 5 million. But kind of makes you think when you look at it from that perspective. But then it's not really lives probably isn't the thing that matters, right? Because if an 80-year-old dies, probably the monetary. I know that this just sounds like ageist or anything, but I'm just saying that the economic value of an 80-year-old is a lot less than the economic value of a 21-year-old, right? So we really have to go into like years of life saved, and then calculate it out that way. And and then you kind of have to start calculating in other things like how quality of life has changed. My sister, who she had some issues with depression. This killed her, man.
Uzi Knesset says think of what a government will have to become to enforce a COVID-free society. That alone makes the cost of life worth it.
Maybe. The issue that we have there, though, Uzi, is that the public at large doesn't seem to agree with that position. The public at large seems to think that it's perfectly okay to implement any kind of draconian measures that are necessary in order to preserve life, which is really scary, isn't it? The really scary future implications, but I think
Uzi Knesset says correction, the public at large that can work from home.
Right. I think that we've made a mistake here. When I say we, I mean like conservatives. When of course it's hard because conservatives get filtered on Twitter and Facebook, and if you say anything, everybody starts getting mad if you say certain things. Like if you were to come out and say that doesn't matter how many people die, we need to keep the economy open, you would get eviscerated. I don't believe that, but I'm just saying if you said that, it would your reputation would take a hit if you had said that on Facebook, I think. And so people are afraid to say stuff now. And I think that conservatives have fallen for it. Dude, like I'm starting to think, well, maybe it should be done at a strategic time, and maybe now is not the strategic time. But I think that at some point, you gotta say, if they ban us, and everybody will be banned, and then they'll start to realize that, hey, 50% of the country is gone.
Says conservatives are doomed, if you ask me.
You know what I mean? They all went over to what is the name of the one that's spiking up lately? Where did I go? I made a new account.
Uzi Knesset says Parler.
Yeah, man, you're like so far ahead of me. They're all moving to Parler, which I don't know. I looked around there. I didn't see any like super interesting content, but maybe that's because I need to go over there and post content. I don't know. But yeah, because when you look at the surveys, here's the thing. Of course, the polls are likely to be off.
Uzi Knesset says, while I don't participate, I follow the culture war very closely.
Yeah, I get you. I'm sure that the polling is highly likely to be inaccurate because we have no way of predicting what turnout is actually going to be. But I do think that trend matters, and that we are seeing Donald Trump falling in the polls and all of this, I think is a concerning thing for the Trump campaign. Now, the way that the media is portraying it, I think, is a suppression tactic. This race hasn't started yet, right? People don't give a crap about this stuff until September. After the conventions, and then we get into the school year, and then people care. And you will know. We've been through this before with midterms. Okay? As soon as people start going back to school and the summer is over, it will change. It'll be ugly. The news, okay, and it will be hard to keep up with because the amount of, what is the word? What is the word that we use when we're trying to convince people? Persuasion. The amount of persuasion media out there after September is just going to skyrocket, and it's going to be stunning. Okay, in September. Okay, so to say that Donald Trump is down now and this says something really significant about the election doesn't, in the longer run, it probably doesn't matter. In fact, it can actually be a contrarian indicator, okay? Because now Donald Trump is from behind and he comes from behind, and that's actually kind of a good thing for him. Okay.
Uzi Knesset says I predicted that people would stop caring about COVID. That's already started.
Well,
If they stop getting tested and just deal with COVID on an individual basis like any other sickness, the madness will end.
I don't know. Because, I mean, they did stop caring, but now all of a sudden they care again. If a state has to shut down, then they're going to care. Right? I think one of the problems was, the mask thing. The mask thing bothers me, man. I don't know how to deal with the mask thing. It seems to me that if everybody wore a mask, that it would reduce the rate of infection and help prevent states from reaching hospitalization. But on an individual basis, the mask is kind of useless. Like, I've been reading all these things, like you wear all day can actually be bad for you because it gets, if it gets damp and stuff.
Uzi Knesset says no, the media cares
Oh,
again and even they stopped
people
caring
care.
for 3 weeks. The flip-flop on COVID from never go outside to go out and protest for social justice put the nail in the coffin.
Maybe. I think I'm starting to see people get concerned about it again because of Texas. I mean, the market cares about it. The market definitely cares about it, right? I mean, look, we had this news. Oh, we did move. We moved about 17-point swing. But in this market, that's like nothing. All of this news to digest, I didn't really see anything that says to me like we have a really strong trade. But you watch later in the day, those COVID numbers come out, and that could be, especially if they're bad. They say, oh, okay, we've reached capacity in Houston and we're going to reimpose lockdown. It's going to hurt the market. And then everybody's going to care again. So I think you might be wrong about that one. Anyways, the mask. What was I saying on the masks? Yeah, on an individual basis, having the mask on doesn't necessarily prevent you from getting anything. The amount that it reduces your chances are not that great, but it does very much prevent the spread of it. So, but then people just don't want to wear it. So you've kind of got this situation where it's like it would be in the public interest for everybody to wear a
E-Trader
mask.
says there will be another lockdown. It can't be right.
I think it's gonna happen, dude. Looking at I'm not super engrossed in the numbers of coronavirus, but looking at the data that we've been getting every day, it seems to me that it's inevitable that a state is going to shut back down. And it's probably going to be Texas or Arizona. So
E-Trader says ouch.
And that's part of why the market has been coming back. I mean, the market was overvalued to begin with, but yeah, I'm thinking longer term. And of course, we got to see the catalyst for it. So when we're watching the news flow, we're interpreting the information that's coming through. But I think it's going to be hard to hold 3,000. Okay, Kudlow is on television right now. Kudlow says strong V recovery is still there.
E-Trader says there is a recession coming, right?
Oh, we're already in a recession, E-Trader. You have 2 negative quarters of negative data, and then that ends up being a recession. But you can't necessarily say that until the end of that second quarter. So we won't be able to say that we are in a recession until, well, actually, I guess we got quarter 2 data, final GDP just now, right? And it was negative. So I guess we are officially in a recession. Anyways.
Uzi Knesset says they will lock down, then reopen and have to lock down again. So long as we don't come to terms with COVID being a part of our lives and expand healthcare capacity appropriately, this will be the cycle.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, so anyways, going back to where we were going with it. I think that when you're looking at polling data, the trend matters, okay? So the coronavirus thing is definitely one thing. It seems to me...
Uzi Knesset says even a vaccine will change nothing unless it's made mandatory.
Seems to me that when coronavirus started, that hurt Donald Trump, but only a little bit. And he was actually recovering from that as people started to reduce the lockdowns because it was like crisis averted. Okay. And then as soon as that spike up started to happen, then the protests came along, and that's when Donald Trump started
Bot
to
says-
take a hit. Mask art. So Donald Trump appears to be taking a hit in his numbers because of the Black Lives Matters protests. That's what the surveys seem to be suggesting to me. So when you look at from a tactical perspective for Donald Trump, okay, it's really early. You have plenty of time to set things. You have a very weak opponent. So I think that the layout of the field is still something that Donald Trump can very much take advantage of. But what has happened is that because of Black Lives Matters, people are afraid to talk about it. And so they have not been able to make their case, right? It's basically what has happened over the past month is that the liberal media has basically had complete, free, unrestricted reign over the persuasion of people. And it is hurting Donald Trump because the conservatives, they basically have turned into, okay, well, I don't want to post about this on social media, it'll piss everybody off. So I'm just going to go to the Donald and preach to the choir and post stuff there. And they're not posting like the funny memes and the stuff that causes cognitive dissonance and the stuff that was helping them. You want to see something interesting going? Yeah, I've seen that, of course. Of course I've seen that. So this is what's going on, right? But that means that there's an opportunity, but conservatives are going to have to change some things, and they're going to have to take some risks to do it, right? It means that you're going to have to come out and you're going to have to say some potentially controversial things to get people to see both sides of the equation and see the truth. From my perspective, and these are a couple of the things that I've seen and the places where I think that there are opportunities for Donald Trump to make some inroads. Is number one, the whole statue tearing down thing is just complete iconoclasm. Like they said that it's all about tearing down monuments to the Confederacy, but they are tearing down everything. They are tearing down statues of Thomas Jefferson and George Washington, and they tried to tear down a statue of Andrew Jackson. They're just trying to tear down everything now at this point. And there are so many statues that have nothing to do with anything, and they're being vandalized. This is just lawlessness at this point, okay? And I think that people too much had been thinking of it as just, oh, well, they think about it, the Charlottesville thing. Well, they didn't get rid of this statue. Now they're going to get rid of it, and they should get rid of it. Because I think that their people are like split 50-50, but that the people that want the Confederate statue of General Lee gone are slightly larger. Okay. So that's where people are taking it from. But really, it's just turned into complete iconoclasm. They're just attacking everything. Okay. So that's the first thing. The number two thing is that the leaders of Black Lives Matters are communists. Like, I'm not just saying like, if you look at their ideas and the things that they're saying, it smells suspiciously. No, they've straight up said that they're communists, right? Like it's on their fucking. Wait, let's go and look. I haven't seen their website in a while. Maybe they've changed it. BlackLivesMatter.com. Okay, let's see here. What matters? 2020. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to sign up to your email list. It looks like they've changed it. Last time that I looked at their website, it was like, these are the things that are driving our movement. And they basically were talking about seizing the means of production. Okay, like it was straight up communism. Okay, that is one thing that you can. That is one inroad that you got. Okay, and then there's the third one. The third one is that all of this chaos is the result of Democrat policies, guys. No question about it. Where are we seeing the most destruction? Democrat cities. Democrat cities, 100%. Republican cities are fine. They came in and they said, okay, we got, like there were protests, but they said, okay, well, there can be peaceful, but if they do stuff that's unlawful, then we're going to stop it. And they did. And they're fine for the most part. That's what happened in Salt Lake City. Protesters chilled out. Protesters basically stood down in Utah. But these places where we're having problems, they're all Democrat areas, guys. And this basically like, okay, the Democrat mayor and the Democrat governor and the Democrat police officers all came in and are oppressing me, so I should vote Democrat. What? That's the I mean, that's the case that's being made, and it's silly, and it's easy to mock and attack. So those are three places where the Donald Trump campaign can try and make inroads. But the problem is they've been making that to themselves, and it's not getting out to the normal people because everybody's too afraid. So you're going to have to come in and you're going to have to be careful. Like, I remember in 2016, some people posted some like intentionally offensive stuff. Okay. You can't do that. You have to make a case, but you can still post the memes and make the case and do it without being outright, what is the word, like crass, right?
Bot says, I hate to ask, but how does any of this discussion add any value or insight as to what may or may not happen in the markets today?
Good question, because the question is, one of the things that the market cares about is whether or not Donald Trump will be president in 2021. That is a thing that the market 100% cares about. And I'm looking at the way that the race is going right now. The market is realizing that Donald Trump is not doing so well in the polling. So I'm mapping out, here are the things that could potentially affect it going forward. This is going to be the battle, right? Can conservatives effectively make their case now against Black Lives Matter? You're seeing Donald Trump is already doing it. In fact, let's come over here and read his tweets. The what left is determined to tear down America's cultural heritage and history. Not on President Donald Trump's watch. He made actual tweets 8 hours ago. Here we go. Well, there's that also. But the whole this economy has been great for blacks. It doesn't seem to be an argument that has been really effective for convincing people. Very sad to see states allowing roving gangs of wise guys, anarchists, and looters, many of them having no idea what they are doing, indiscriminately ripping down our statues, monuments to the past. Some are great works of art, but all represent our history and heritage. Both good and the bad. It is important for us to understand and remember, even in turbulent and difficult times, and learn from them. Knowledge comes from the most unusual of places. This tweet right here is what I call it's a messaging signal. He's saying to his supporters, this is the argument that we're trying to make right now. And he's making it as succulently as possible so that all of his supporters will go out and make memes about that particular thing. So what I'm saying is, if you're a Donald Trump supporter, that's what you got to go out and do. That's the case. You should be out there arguing. And the thing that's going to affect his chances the most is how effective they are now at going out and making that case to normal people. Okay. But it's more so than that. It's the sentiment. It's the sentiment of things. Right now, the sentiment is there's chaos everywhere and people are sick of it. That seems to be why Donald Trump isn't doing so well. And how does that affect the markets? Especially when we come in and we see that the number of coronavirus cases is increasing. It's very negative for sentiment. So no wonder that we saw a sell-off yesterday. I think that we're going to need another news catalyst, but I think that action can continue if we get more negative news catalysts. So that's why it matters. And it matters because you've got to understand how the politics and the news cycle works, right? Because otherwise, how are you going to predict what the next set of moves is going to be? So it totally matters. Anyways, that's the way I think it's going to go down. I don't know. So the market is moving up. I mean, there's the other side. There's the bull case, right? Which continues to be the Federal Reserve is putting out, unprecedented support. I think there's a problem with that case right now, and that is that the amount of money that the Federal Reserve is putting into markets has decreased substantially. And when they started decreasing, it was kind of when we started moving down /flat. Also, there's a lot of short-term things affecting us right now, right? Like all of these funds that have to rebalance and stuff. So we're kind of like because we had such a strong bull run, it's really hard to get that sentiment down. But the trajectory for the sentiment right now is negative because of all those things. For sure. Let's see here. I'm not getting new tweets because I'm not scrolled up all the way to the top. Forex Live US dollar drops after economic data. Stocks are set to open lower. Well, the dollar is still staying above the 97 that we got from yesterday. 97.35 is I'm still getting a feeling for how much the dollar index moves during a day. But 35 cents is an okay move up. So they're trying to make another push there towards, the higher end of 30.37. Was that the high of the day? No, it wasn't the high of the day. But no, they seem to be sputtering out a little bit right there. You can notice that the amount of liquidity that they're putting out there right now isn't very high. And not even 100, 200. It's pre-market. It's already 710 too. We talked about that for a long time. Was there anything I missed that you guys... Oh, because Uzi was talking a lot here.
Uzi Knesset says so if the pattern holds, BLM interest should die around mid-July, early August.
Yeah, although the thing with that is that I wouldn't put it down to like, oh, this is like a George Soros thing and he's choosing that now is the time for that to be the big news story, so they're putting all the money into making it happen sort of a thing. And they only choose to do it during election years. I mean, I suppose it's possible, but if we're going to say something like that, we need to have proof to be saying it. I think that it's really more the case that people have kind of these cyclical feelings, and the point at which people tend to feel the most satisfied is when an election is coming, because the politicians, especially the Democrats, try to make them feel unsatisfied, right? And then that...
Uzi Knesset says I'm not assigning blame to a specific person or anything. I think it largely coincides with May Day. Yeah, no, because they're communists.
Right. Okay, the bulls did push through there, and you're actually seeing off of that break a lot of people jumping on now. Well, a lot of market participants decided to add contracts there. Oh, that's so interesting. Now that I'm showing my level 2 on such a granular level, now you can see it. Look right here. Let's zoom in on it. Okay. Here's the move. Look, it was basically it got up there, and then everybody stacked on. This is all. That's all the retail traders saying, "Oh, okay, now I want to get long." They're slow. That's interesting. Because I was thinking, the reason I put this up there is I was thinking, let's make a level 2 robot. Let's tell this level 2 robot, okay, if we're trending up and we cross the 0 line, then you want to go long. Or like maybe we can even make it take like a trillion trades. Like let's have it, sell here, buy here, sell here when the super smoother inflex. Why not? Make it try to be in the market like all the time. And if the level 2 switches, they just switch positions. How would it come out at the end of the day? I think it would be interesting. So I'm kind of watching it to see if on a really short-term basis, if what I think is true is actually true.
Uzi Knesset says I started doing some light programming in NT. I want to move into messing with order book data.
Oh yeah. Well, I tell you what, Uzi, the messing with the order book data is not as complicated as it seems.
Sunday Driver says, can someone save me from Zoom meetings? I'm willing to take my chances with the coronavirus.
Yeah, like the Zoom meetings. I'm getting a little tired of some of it. They're moving us off to a Microsoft's product, off of Zoom, I guess, because Zoom is not secure. Yeah, I don't know. Earlier in this week, I was hyper productive. So I see some advantages to the way things are right now. But then there's other times when I'm like, I'm dealing with other people and
Sunday
stuff like
Driver
that. Like
says, I'm
nothing
forced
happens.
into meeting with people I used to avoid at work. God help us all.
Man, Sunday. So yesterday was terrible because I'm doing a support issue with somebody, and I guess somebody set up some process a while ago that isn't working anymore, and nobody even knows where it is. So we're trying to find this thing, and I'm talking to other people to try and figure out where it might be, and they're slow to respond and everything. So not a whole lot has gotten done on that. But then I also had to take a huge chunk of my day out yesterday to try and get my Lialda, which, oh my gosh, guys, freaking never get ulcerative colitis, man. That medication is such a pain in the butt to get filled. And I was there at the Walgreens. I always have to call people, but like I had already called the Walgreens once. They said it should be ready at this time. Then it wasn't ready at that time, and then they wouldn't let me get it because they said I'm not available for a refill until July, which is wrong. And then so we call up the place and they say, "Oh, it's just because of this thing. So all we got to do is reset this. It'll be fine." So we reset it, go back to the Walgreens. Still doesn't work. So we call another person. They say, you should call the tech support desk for the pharmacy. So the pharmacy calls the tech support desk, and they say, like, the tech support person, I don't think they have a clue what's going on. So they forward us on to, so they put me back on the phone. Pharmacist is on the phone. So I explain it to them, and I'm like, look, I'll talk to as high as you can let me go to get this fixed, but I'm going to get this medication. And so I get forwarded off to somebody else. And then somebody else is like, okay, so I need to talk to the pharmacy. Can I talk to the pharmacy? So I tell them, so I hand the phone to the pharmacy. And then the pharmacy is like, what? Then the person on the phone is like, well, we can't do this because my system doesn't say that you're a pharmacist. Because we got forwarded by this other person. So they're like, so what you need to do is you need to call this tech support desk number. That's the number we just called. It was the number we had just called. And we're like, how about we give you our number or you give us your number and we'll call you back. And then it should come in as that we're a pharmacy because we didn't get forwarded. And then they're like, no, okay, let me look through it. So I don't know. Maybe they thought that we were trying to like scam them or something. I don't know, but then they finally did do that. And then I was sitting there for an hour for this lady to, I guess she was probably working with other people to fix it. And the pharmacist, like I got the pharmacist, like I got the lead manager pharmacist person there at the Walgreens was just sitting there helping me, sitting on the phone with me rather. And then, by the way, pretty good trend up now ever since they, everybody jumped on to that. I think that we're to a point where you might get a little bit of a pullback. This is kind of interesting. I haven't seen that before. So let's see what happens here. Anyways, so we get all of that done. So here's the other thing. I called like 3 weeks ago to say, okay, like, is my prescription going to be ready on this day? And they were like, yes. And we can't fill it now, but we'll order it for you so that we'll be sure that we have it when it's time. No. It's on back order. So I still didn't get it. They said I might get it. They're like, there's only X bottles in our warehouse in the whole country. There was like, there's 15 of these in the whole country. What? And I want 3. I ordered it 3 weeks ago. I can't get this shit. Oh my gosh. So that was like 2 hours of my time. And then, so I feel didn't get much done yesterday. So yeah, I feel you. Mm-hmm. Now on the
Sunday driver says I'm fortunate. I don't need any regular meds.
there you go. This stuff is so, if it would be really hard to be one of those people that think that like, oh, the pharmaceutical industry is only trying to get us hooked on drugs and, keeping us dependent on their money and stuff. It would be really hard to be one of those people and then have the condition that I have, because you got this medication. You have to take 4 of these huge pills every day. The pill without your insurance costs $1,000. There's a generic for it, but the generic doesn't actually work. and the disease that you have is like, there's no explanation for it. It's just your immune system attacks your colon because it thinks that you have an infection. And some people think maybe there is an infection and we just can't detect it. So how and you have to take this medication or else you just get tired, and you can tell that I'm a little bit short fuse. That's a lot of it is that, because I'm just like, you don't sleep well with it. Okay, so when we saw that dip down, I kind of thought, okay, there's something going on here, and they turned. I've never seen a flip like that before, where it's just like all of a sudden it went down, but it really didn't affect price at all. And now we're turning down, and some people are going short. But look, you still get this thing that when we go short, not as many
Bot says
people.
durable goods orders, GDP, international trade in goods, jobless claims, corporate profits, retail inventories, advance, wholesale inventories, advance, all at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time.
Yeah. Well, we went through all of that. Most of those numbers were in line.
Sunday driver says I do take care to monitor my diet, etc. I'd be on cholesterol pills if I didn't watch my diet. Is there a dietary or homeopathic way to reduce symptoms?
For what I've got, no. There are certainly things that
Lucy
you
Knesset
can
says you
eat
got
that
any
make it
simple
worse.
order book programming examples you can share? Something not valuable or anything, just something I can learn from.
Yeah. So a couple of things. So let's go through these in order. Oh yeah. So bots. One of the things that I was noticing with all that data, most of it came in line. The jobless claims seemed to be the thing that the market cared the most about. I started digging into the report. There were some revisions and stuff, but I didn't really see anything all that interesting in it. But then the market, really took off. What was it? 6:35, 6:34. So like 4 minutes after the news came in, they moved up. So I don't know if there was some other news event that I'm not aware of, but it seems to me that we came in with all of the economic data, and that the economic data didn't really change the picture for us a whole lot. It was mostly what we thought it was going to be. So yeah, I don't know. Back on onto the thing of politics. I mean, part of it is that I think that we all have opinions on politics, and that it's important to talk about them. And like the thing that I am really knowledgeable at, the thing that I've spent the most of my time doing in my life, has been reading about politics. So for me, that's one of the things that I offer. I get that's not everybody always wants to hear about the politics, but from my perspective, it's like, oh well, if I'm talking about the things, then, and people don't want to watch it at that particular time, then I'm totally okay with it, because I think it's more important for me to be genuine, and to share my knowledge about what I know about those things. And I also think that it's important to acknowledge where your biases are, right? I could come in and I could try to be like an Ian Shepherd or somebody like that that tries to pretend to be neutral, but then it's very clear that they're not. I'm trying to be pretty upfront with where my biases are, and go back through, so that we can go back through and see, where we're wrong about things and stuff like that. Like the mask thing is a good example, because the people in my community, in the conservative community, are basically turning it into like, if you support Donald Trump, you don't wear a mask. That's what it's turned into, which I think is silly. My wife has made thousands of dollars making masks for people. Um, but I'm kind of like, the reason that it helps is because it prevents you from spreading it. So people don't want to do it. I get it, right? But that's kind of like a bias. So I think it's important to just be upfront about it, because then you can understand where you're going to be wrong and where you're not, and kind of try and compensate. It's easier to see reality if you actually understand how you see it, right? RJ Will says this lady is selling masks too. Yeah, she made, my wife made a lot of money off of doing that. I was quite surprised at the demand for it. She was just from people asking her on Facebook. Okay, anyways, so Uzi was saying a simple order book programming example you can share. So if you look at my video, I have a video on the channel that is NinjaScript programming data structures, and I go into it. But I will show you really quick. Let's see here. I think I have one that's not doing anything too crazy that I can show you. Have like my level 2 changes. No. It's Is it this one? Yeah, it's on this one. So when I say it's simple, like it really is simple. So you got this on market depth method, and every time that there is a market depth change, that method gets called. That's basically how it works. Okay. And then this market depth update, that is the input to it, it basically is what you have to work with. Okay. Here, I'll show you here. Market depth update dot, and it shows you what you can see. So it tells you the volume, the time that NinjaTrader received it, what price it was at, how far away it is from the best bid and ask, whether they were, operation is going to be like, if is it just an update to a field, or is it like a field that you hadn't received yet before? Market maker doesn't apply to us in futures. Most of these don't apply to us. Anyways, these are the things that are interesting, right? So then what you can do is you can either do stuff off of that one specific level 2 change, or you can start to put them into data structures, right? So like for instance, I can make a dictionary and I can say, okay, so they would set the market depth at 30, 34, 75 to 10. So I go into my data structure and I say the bid here is 10, right? And then you can go back. Now you have this data structure and you can go back and you can say, okay, add them all together and tell me what they are added together or whatever it is that you want to do, right? So for this one, I'll just close this now. New. So this one right here, what it's doing is it's building the book in that way, and then it adds to all of the bids and offers and compares them to each other, and that's how you get that. I don't know if it's useful or not. Seems like it could give us some signals, but I don't know. I kind of feel like that almost anything that I'm going to do with technical analysis is probably not going to have a great long-term expectancy, but I think that we could maybe make a robot that at least comes close to paying for itself, and that could be fun. So, but we got to get an idea of like what we want to do. Like should it be um maybe I can do if there's a new high here. Like if this came in and all of a sudden it pushed and there was more than 600, then maybe then I want to buy. Okay, here's the open. Ooh. Oh, yeah. Okay, so I'm just remembering I have to leave early today. Oh man, I'm gonna miss the important stuff, aren't I? But I have an eye appointment early in the morning in like 30 minutes. So in about 25 minutes, I gotta get going. That's what that was, right? Today, 8 a.m. Dismiss. Yeah, I can't believe they started at 8 a.m. We'll do it. Okay, so the initial move was lower. The cumulative delta is lower, but um, again, quite a bit of back and forth on the open, as has been the case for the open over the past few weeks, really. Okay, so there's the buying. Okay, so very interesting. Actually, a lot of volume on that, but not a lot of liquidity adding because of it. Actually, quite a bit of volume trading there in around the open. Let's see here. John's got that post of a chart here. It looks like a chart. Yeah. Well, so far, I don't see any evidence of somebody like really, really trying hard to make it go somewhere. This looks like noise traders. We should use that. I've been reading that Gary Norton manual, and he talks about noise traders in there, and I'm like, yeah, I think so. This looks like noise traders. I think that the big guys are either just trying to passively sell as quietly as they can, or they are, you know, waiting for like the coronavirus numbers. Okay, so there's a sell. That sell was a little bit more dramatic. sure is whippy. Okay. Huh. Might work. This might work, guys. Maybe we'll program this. Well, I don't think we have enough time to do it today. Tomorrow, well, let's try and write it. See if we can get a robot that does stuff. Dun dun dun. Who's still tweeting about China Indian stuff? Well, it's interesting when I look at it from a volume perspective. I'm like, well, the sellers made a pretty good push there. But when I look at it from the level 2 perspective, it doesn't look like anything has changed. Arizona councilman sparks uproar after saying I can't breathe at anti-mask rally. Why would you have an anti-mask? I don't get it. I understand there's science both ways, but the end result seems to be that it does decrease infections. So what's the big deal? Okay. So we just touched our moving average there. And as we did that, you could see quite a few more people jumping on board, but it's still not going. Let's zoom out here. There we go. Now it goes. So that's the first real strong push above the moving average. Oh, and even to the highs. So the highs of the regular session, there's still, we got all the way up to what, 30, 40? Okay. So that buy was very short lived. Overall, though, yesterday I felt like we had a really good setup for stuff to happen, and today I don't think we do. I don't think that I can really call if they're going to resolve to the upside or the downside at the moment.
Sunday Driver says an annoying wing of the Republican Party
Oh,
believes in
yes.
outrageous conspiracy theories. Every vaccine is a Bill Gates scheme to enslave the planet and tag you with the mark of the beast.
Oh yeah. I kind of wonder though if that's actually a significant number of people, or if that's being driven by Russians and agitators, and that there's just a few of the lower intelligence people that are falling for it. Like the whole Q conspiracy thing. People go into the Donald Trump rallies and they have Q merchandise and stuff. Like the guys that made those initial posts came out and said that they were joking, right? Like if you know anything about 4chan, you should
Uzi
understand at
Knesset
this
says
point
that
that
Q
it's a
shit
hoax.
is fascinatingly dumb.
It's totally a hoax, right? I just don't. Why do people eat that stuff up? I don't get it.
RJ Wheels says I wish he had a vaccine for viruses that attack Windows.
Yeah, well. Oh yeah. So I was, one of the things I was thinking about today was that we're reading Animal Farm, I'm reading it to the kids. Maybe, I mean, I know that there's some things in I mean, because the animals kill people and stuff, right? But I'm pretty sure that they can handle it. And I gotta tell you what, man, that book is so well written. Just he's such a good George Orwell is just such a good writer. Like reading it, I can feel every word, and it's easy to read that book, man. And so one of the things that I'm noticing in the first bit is that the pig comes in and he gives this speech about how all of their problems are due to the farmer. But then the thing that really gets people going after the speech, because people aren't even really, it seems like they aren't even completely paying attention, to be honest. Then they sing the song, and everybody loves the song so much, and that's what gets them going. Huh? I was thinking about that, and I was like, oh yes, the Republicans, maybe the Republicans aren't doing as well because their memes haven't been as good, or their memes aren't reaching the normies. Because a lot of people just go for the like low information stuff, they like the song. Um
Sunday Driver says Q is the biggest fraud ever. They are going to be very disappointed when Obama, Clinton, and the rest don't go to prison. Q is moving people's focus away from real things they should focus on.
Probably, and that's
Gary
why
Rich says at RJ Strange how YM took out 621st slow.
I think that originally it was just a 4chan hoax, but I actually think there is some evidence to suggest that Russians are watching this and are saying, "Oh, this is the perfect thing to screw people over with," and so Russians are amplifying it. Okay, that cell looked a little bit more decisive. I think we could take that one. Okay, so it turns back out maybe 3029. I mean, I guess I would prefer downside. I think that could maybe be a boredom trade, though. Well, I mean, it did work out, so I don't know how to just justify that one to you. I just see you can kind of that would maybe if it had failed, then maybe I'd be like, oh yeah, you see, we don't actually know. It looked like that move was way more decisive. Actually, it was on the level 2. It was much more decisive because they were touching 400. They were touching negative 400.
Sunday Driver says regarding Animal Farm, you are slowly coming to my viewpoint. Universal suffrage is a bad idea. Lol.
RJ Wheel says yes Gary.
Bot says I have a question for you at Seth.
Gary Rich says why are we selling off? I know.
Coronavirus concerns? Maybe they're selling off because they feel like it. I think that they're selling off because they just feel like it. Could be wrong. See, I think we're going to make this level 2 robot. I don't think it's going to work. I think we might discover some interesting things, but I don't think it's going to work. I think there's too much noise. But it's going to be fun. I still want to try it. Oh yeah, this could sell. Well, I tell you what, that 3,000 below us looks awfully juicy. Awfully juicy. John had a question. What's the question? He's probably still typing it. Or maybe he thought, oh, I don't know if he wants to answer my question. Ooh, look at that drop right there. ECB's not. There's now a glimmer of a beginning of a recovery. Okay. Nassim Nicholas
Bot says, why do Republicans blame everything on Russians, communists, Democrats, and Bill Gates?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I think that it has to do with the ideology, right? The conservative ideology. How do I put it? Ideology is probably not the right word. Mindset. The conservative mindset is that our country is pretty great and we shouldn't screw it up. That's the conservative mindset, right? So if the country is really great and it's not doing as well, then the answer must be that somebody else screwed it up. So who can you blame? Russians, communists, Democrats. The one with Bill Gates, I don't get. That is like a new thing, and everybody is blaming it on because of the vaccine thing.
RJ Wheel says, looking back, perhaps 24,450 approximately area will be the new floor if these June underpinnings don't hold.
Ooh. The Bill Gates thing, I don't, and that seems like a recent thing. I think that Bill Gates just becomes an easy target because Bill Gates is just not very charismatic. Maybe that's why he gets so much grief. I don't know, but yeah, it's 100% endemic to the mindset. Just like with liberals, it's always about trying to say that you're the most popular, right? That because their whole thing is about changing things. The best argument that they have for changing something is that everybody agrees that we should change it. And so their strategy is always to try and appear
Gary
to be
Rich
the
says
popular
at RJ
ideology.
Thumbs up okay sign.
Whereas Republicans are always trying to say things used to be great and they're not anymore, and so we should change things back to the way that it used to be. Or that things are really great right now and we should continue doing what we're doing and we should ignore these other ideas that are really bad. It's this is where I really think that you need both of them. Because if conservatives completely take over everything, what you get is essentially China. It's basically pre-communist China, right? They had Confucianism. Confucianism is a conservative ideology that says older people deserve their respect and there's a hierarchy and the oldest person is on top because they're the wisest and there's a way that we do things, and in order for you to even be in the government you have to take this huge test and completely agree with our philosophy of how we do things.
Sunday Driver says the left has gotten so screwy that you can work one woke argument against another woke argument. When talking about white privilege, just say, how is that going to stop global warming?
RJ Wheel says, I think both sides at elite level want China model.
Maybe. I think that there is a tendency. So this is another logical fallacy that people have is, remember this whole thing that like when you do well, you want to say that it was me that I'm the reason that I did well. It had nothing to do with luck. And if I do poorly, then it was just bad luck. And that's our tendency. That's just people's tendency all the time. This is a tendency that will really screw us up in trading, especially if you're looking at technical analysis. Because if you do technical analysis and then you take the trade and it works out, and then you say, oh yeah, it was great. I did follow my plan and it was great. And when it doesn't work out, you say, well, it was just bad luck. And how do you sit down and like work on the feedback? Like, because over time, it's really hard to tell, am I actually winning more than I'm losing and stuff? Right? That really screws with your mentality. You're doing technical analysis alone. Okay? So people that have done well in life, even if it was inherited or it was luck, think that they're so smart. And if only I was in charge of the world, then all of these problems would go away because I'm so smart. And I think that's the way that it goes. Is the elites? Some people say, oh yeah, we should just be in charge of everything because if we had complete control over all of the aspects of the economy and things like that, then we would never have any problems. But it's very clear when you actually start to go down those kinds of routes that there's problems, right? Like Okay, people wanted a centralized response to coronavirus outbreak. Probably would have been the worst thing that we could have done because, and of course, we still ended up making the mistake anyways because some states shouldn't have shut down when they did. Some states should have waited to get more cases, waited for an actual real outbreak to be occurring, and then shut down to flatten the curve. Because they didn't do that and they didn't actually have an outbreak yet, they just delayed when the outbreak happens, but they're not going to be able to actually stop they're not going to be able to reduce the peak of it. This was we make mistakes. And when you have one person in charge of everything, a mistake ends up, you're taking on more risk, essentially. I think that's what causes it, personally. And then on top of that, you got just the people that have the power will have a tendency to look out for their interests more. So then, people that made money are people that made money off of importing stuff from China. So then they're not going to be happy when we decide that we need to decouple ourselves from China. I was thinking back to the why do Republicans always blame everything on the communists and everything else like that. I mean, it's definitely a thing that happens. But at the same time, when I look at like the Black Lives Matters movement, for instance, it's really hard for me to sit down and be like, oh, this is all the how do you say it's the Republicans' fault? They didn't implement any of these policies, right? And all of these cities that are having problems, they're all Democrats. Unfortunately, I don't know if that argument is incredibly effective because you're basically with that argument, you're attacking people in Democrat strongholds that just aren't going to vote Republican, Oh man, Chuck E. Cheese parent files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy.
Gary Rich says WTF white man. No, you do not get to speak on Confucius. Laughing so hard. The issue with Confucius is his thoughts on government morality. What a hypothetical horse crap.
No, but I mean, obviously there are problems with Confucianism, but the whole thing is that it was a hyper conservative ideology that was codified across the whole society and prevented any kind of real change from happening. So when the communists came in, that's why they did the whole Cultural Revolution and everything, was because they were saying Confucianism was the reason that we weren't progressing, and I think there's probably some truth to that. Because they were so conservative, new ideas weren't able to take fruit and be implemented. And then the communists came in and they take it the complete other side. So then there's the other side of the coin, which is the extreme far left ideology, which is the way that the system is right now is wrong, and we need to completely overhaul the system. The mistake that they always make is that then they try to fully implement ideas that are completely untested, and a lot of the at least in modern society, the set of ideas that the people that want change are pushing end up being really bad ideas in this particular case. It's kind of funny because when it was the American Revolution, right? The should we call them progressives or liberals? I like liberal because of the idea of classical liberal, but to me, a liberal is just somebody that wants change. The people that wanted change were people like George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, right? And the change that they wanted ended up being a good idea. Now today, then communism came along, and the change that they wanted was communism ends up being a really bad idea. And when you put the communists in charge, then what did they do? And this is where you get Stalin is implementing all of his economic ideas, and Stalin doesn't know jack squat about economics. And he has these ideas about the way that things should work, but he has no clue what he's doing, and they all ended up being trash.
Gary Rich says Mao destroyed people. Deng destroyed Maoist in China is what it is now.
Yeah.
Dan H says the concept of the Tao was all about balance. I guess people do not want balance.
Well, my understanding about China is that they realized at some point that a lot of their ideas were dumb. I mean, in the 70s, they basically, all of the communists said, oh, we were wrong. And so they kind of tried to take a step back. They didn't want to give up centralized control, but they did sit down and say, well, we need to have a system whereby ideas that have to be vetted before we try them. And that's why they started to bring some of the Confucian culture back. And now in China, they have a lot of Confucian schools and kids go to school for it. And they're kind of promoting it a little bit back because they realize that they went too far left. But that's the problem. That's really the problem here is that I see in America is you kind of need both. You need people that understand why it works the way that it is today. And you need people that see where you can make some changes because it seems that it's a personality trait and that you don't get people that can see both of those. And so if you get where a political party is all completely one group of people, and that's what's happened is used to be that there was liberal Republicans and conservative Republicans, and now it's just the Republicans are conservative and the Democrats are liberal. And so now you end up with these problems, right? Democrats come in and what are they doing? They're rioting and they're creating ongoing protests that block the police out and are just like all of the ideas that they're trying in there are just like a complete disaster. And then you get all of these Republicans that think that, oh, okay, I'm just going to lock myself in my house with my rifle. And if anybody tries to disturb me, I'm going to start, it's not balanced at all. It's not balanced at all. The country needs each other. I keep hearing this thing like there's going to be a civil war. People are going to move. I kind of get this thing where it's like, hey, listen, if you live in Minneapolis, and they're getting rid of the police and all of this other, like, you should just move. If the place that you live in doesn't respect your rights, yeah, you should just move. But this idea that all of the Republicans are going to move to Republican areas and all the Democrats are going to move to Democrat areas and then 10 years from now we're going to have a civil war is crazy talk. And it's unbalanced. We cannot allow that to happen. You have to interact with them. I personally, and I think this is something where it's just going to be me. I think that the people on the liberal side, they've been going on with this thing where it's like, if you disagree with me on this thing, then you're evil and you need to be shut up. That's really unhealthy for the society. We've got to get past that because you need them. You need them. You really do. You need the other side and you have to talk to them. But anyways, I've gone on too long. I have to get going because I've got an eye appointment. Downtown Seattle has become bleak. Oh yeah, they're breaking that up. Anyways, guys, watch out for the coronavirus numbers. They're going to be coming up here in the next 40 minutes, and that's probably going to move the market. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Maybe we'll try and program this robot. And in the meantime, stay profitable, friends.